okay. I didn't even know I had a website. I guess everyone does.
There are a lot of really interesting veteran actors and actresses in this. Morgan Paul, I forgot, was in this as the mayor. Robert Forster, of course, and I have to ask you about the glasses.
Well, the thing about the glasses is Bob knew what his demise was, and he wanted to establish the sunglasses so that he could have them on to protect his eyes in case any of the sparks got close to him. So he said, I think he found a rather loud way of establishing the sunglasses, but that was his way of kind of putting them into the movie so that he could put them on when he's on that, when the fireworks are going off around him. Actors, they think ahead.
The moment with the Francis Scott Key reference about how he'd never written another hit, and that's with Isaac Hayes, who wrote many hits. That was
Isaac was wonderful,
amusing and joke.
I got to sing Shaft with him, and he sang the background. I did his voice. I did his. That was fun. He was a great guy. So I stayed in touch with him and until he died. Sad.
I have more questions, but let's take some from the audience. If anybody,
Michael.
I'm just curious what your original ending was.
I had a kind of an EC comic ending. The ending I had was that Jody goes to the cemetery, and where his uncle's grave is, and suddenly we hear the squeaking gates open, and between the tombstones, we see this body dragging with its intestines hanging out in an Uncle Sam uniform. In other words, he's blown in half, and he's crawling to his grave. It was kind of a bit of EC plus Death Dream. That was kind of my thinking on it, because I love Death Dream, and I always loved the ending of Death Dream, and I kind of wanted to kind of combine the two. And that was a big special effect and everything. Didn't get to do it. This was a low budget movie.
what was the budget?
Oh God, I think it was $1.5 million. I mean, at the time, shooting 35 millimeter and all the rest, that's a low budget. Anybody else have any questions? Silence.
About some of the other, how some of the actors and actresses like PJ Souls.
Yeah, PJ, she's great. Yeah, I was a fan of PJ Souls. And, there was a lot of good character actors in the movie. I mean, I always try to do that because I always find them to be the actors that are the most fun. I did that in the Maniac Cop films. I always try to do that, and because they bring some life to some of those roles.
Yeah, Timothy Bottoms from Johnny Got His Gun.
Yeah. Timothy Bottoms, great guy. All the people, I'll tell you, there wasn't an asshole among them. Really, everybody was cool. I mean, this was an easy movie from a shooting standpoint. I mean, it was the first movie I made, I think, where I didn't have to worry about my car being broken into. We were shooting in Laverne, California, which is a beautiful place. And we kind of fucked it up. When we blew up the house, what happened was I don't know if any of you guys want to pick up the DVD or Blu-ray, but we have a little thing in there about when we blew up the house. We did it about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the blast was so... See, I was kind of egging on the special effects guys that I wanted something big. And so when we blew the house, it was 1 in the morning, and the vibrations of the blast busted windows in adjacent houses for like blocks. There was even a thing in the newspaper where there was a woman standing near her baby's crib with broken glass in it because it was near a window. And boy, did we piss off the neighbors. They pulled our permit. They did we got basically kicked out of the town after we did those blasts. But aside from that, it was a very pleasant, it was a very pleasant shoot. I remember when the special effects guys were getting ready to do the blast, I asked the special effects guy, where I should stand, and he told me where to stand. And then Spiro, who overheard it, looks at me, he goes, go further. Don't listen to this guy. Go back further. Because he knew what was going to happen. Oh, also that house that we rented, it was a false front, but it was covering a real house. So when we did the blast, it busted up all the plumbing in the house, blew the doors of all the cabinets in the kitchen. I mean, we did some serious destruction.
Mike?
I'm curious, well, with obviously referencing the war in the Middle East and everything, was there ever the thought that you're making some kind of a critique or statement with it, or was it just purely intended to be a fun film?
Well, I think a bit of both. It was, the idea was, it had a little bit of, I see the same thing going on today, with everybody gets gung-ho about, dropping bombs and things like that. And, no one really thinks about the people who suffer the most, which is the soldiers who have to go out and fight these things. And, I have mixed feelings about all that stuff, so. But, it was intended to be a fun movie, but they also have a bit of a message. Maybe it was too heavy-handed, I don't know. I think in parts it was. I think we beat it too much. Again, I think the script needed another pass.
In the back.
So, where did you guys film the movie mostly?
Mostly in a town called Laverne, California. We did shoot that cemetery in a town that's kind of interesting, Sierra Madre, which is where they shot the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That was fun. If you ever get a chance to go to Sierra Madre, it actually, if you take a look at Invasion of the Body Snatchers before, and you go there, you'll see the town has very little change, has changed very little.
Dino?
This was the last feature that you directed before
Yeah.
your most production work. Were there any other projects that came across your desk, anything you considered after this as a director?
I started to feel, when I started making movies in the 80s, they would all play in the theaters, and it was kind of like, I kind of got the feeling in the 90s that it was like a tree falling in the forest. You'd make a movie and it sort of would fall into the pay TV video world. And I didn't find much satisfaction in that. And I had been making movies for a while, and I don't know, I started to lose interest. It was hard to raise money, and I just felt as though I didn't consciously walk kind of decline stuff. I just sort of didn't really pursue it. Yes. Anybody else?
Anybody?
Oh, another one?
Okay. I'm curious how you see Jody's arc, because he actually ends up dealing with some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, doesn't he?
Learning about his hero being abusive.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's the kid's gonna be traumatized. I think. Yeah. I think we tried to. At least to my mind, this last shot was that this kid's fucked up. So that was kind of my thinking. I don't know if it came across. I was probably with a smile, Yes.
So, did you have any other ideas for other kills? Because
Kills in the movie?
yeah, the kills were kind of a little bit limited.
Yeah.
The storyline was really.
I really didn't. I can't think. I don't know. Maybe I did. This again. There was so many weird things with this production. It was very strange. It was financed by a wealthy friend of my attorney's, and it was just so weird. It was, you know, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was just a weird thing. You know, it was a film where there was you know, I got sort of labeled as being this war director by the attorney for this wealthy guy, and says, oh, Lustig, you know, the film will never get rated, you know, he makes these bloody movies. The guy really didn't know, he obviously didn't know what he was talking about, he was just referring to Maniac. And so when I shot the film, I held back on gore and stuff, and a lot of the little pieces of gore that you see in the movie were added later. You know, we just, I think it was Bob who shot some of the gore stuff. That's why he has a credit. You know, like the decapitated head and that kind of thing. I mean, I shot the body of it, but then the close-ups of the bloody head, and there was something else. I think it was a leg in the grave that was a close-up of a bloody thing. You know, it's hard, you know, when you're making a movie, you can't have so many people trying to, you know, you start to like, you know, you start to like feel lost, you know, when you're making the film, when you have so many people who are in control, really, who, you know, they'll say different things and you're trying to satisfy people, and it just never works. I mean, the composer was terrible on this movie. Terrible. The score was unusable. I mean, if I played you the score, and so like the first part of the movie, there's hardly any score, and so it feels so dead. You know, it feels flat, you know, for the first 30 minutes of the movie. The guy's score was like Halloween. It was the same score as Halloween. I listened to it, I go, you gotta be kidding. I'll get crucified if I put that in a movie. It was really hard. You know, the producer thrust upon me a composer who I had no connection with, had never done a movie. I don't even know if he's done one since. You know, but that's what I'm saying. There's so many weird things when you make films, you know. I loved it back in the 80s when nobody was around. Michael.
I saw a thank you at the end to Jay Chataway.
Well, Jay came in and he tried to piece, a lot of that stuff was pre-existing music that we got from a library that he had to piece together to try to create a score. Because, you know, we didn't have the money to get it rescored. So he came in at my, to really help me in a desperate situation. It was, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
I saw in the credits, I think it said like caretaker, and he was also a Lustig.
That's my brother. He was one of the people pushing the coffin in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't make a cameo.
I didn't.
Frank Pesh is in there, though, briefly.
Frank Pesh is in there, yes. Yeah, and that was his dialogue. Yes? Anybody else? Oh.
Maybe I missed this, but obviously this is a 35mm print.
Yes.
What was the theatrical release, if there was? I mean,
No, there wasn't any.
So, but the prints were struck, and were they played anywhere or no?
No. No, well, other than, you know, festivals and, you know, things like that, but no, never.
How many times have you come out for a show?
I don't know, maybe 3 times, 4 times. Yeah, 3, 4 times, I think, most.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Oh, yeah, no, I love it up here. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was a pleasure for you to show the film for us.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Seeing it.
And it's nice to come back in winter. What happened to my Aprils of my youth in New York? This is ridiculous. I remember when we were astonished when it snowed in March. Now it's like, I swear I come out of I'm gonna step outside, it feels like, it's like Christmas or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you all for coming, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.